Welcome to Neurodivergent Faith, a podcast to help you navigate the beautiful and complicated intersection of neurodivergence and Christian faith and practice. Whether you're neurodivergent yourself, or you're a friend, family member, or church leader seeking to understand more about the neurodivergent Christian experience, you're in the right place. My name's Josh Davis. I'm autistic, ADHD, a spiritual director, and an ordained pastor, and I'm delighted to have you join me as we explore the unique ways neurodivergent people experience God, worship, community, and scripture, along with special interests, sensory and attention differences, social and communication challenges, and much more. Together, we'll break down barriers, confront misconceptions and assumptions, and celebrate the beautiful diversity of God's creation in all of us. So, if you're ready to think deeply and creatively, to reconcile your faith and your brain wiring, or you just want to hear what it sounds like when neurodivergence and Christianity have a conversation, come on in. It's a bit messy, definitely interesting, and we wouldn't have it any other way. We don't do small talk here, so let's jump into something real, raw, and robust. Are you ready? Take a deep breath, hold it, and let it out with a sigh. All right, here we go. So glad you joined us here at Neurodivergent Faith. This is part 3 of a conversation with Neurodiverse Couples Coach Robin Tate on executive function. Robin has thought about this extensively, researched this, written about executive function, and we're having this ongoing conversation about the different aspects of executive function and how they interact with faith, connection with God, connection with faith communities, connection with self, etc. So we're just wrapping up a section on planning and prioritization, and Robin's going to give a few techniques that you might want to try to help you with planning and prioritization if that's a challenge for you. And then we're going to jump into a few more of the aspects of executive function, namely organization and time management. It's a free-flowing conversation with Robin. We are both associative thinkers, and I appreciate that about the way we interact so much. So thanks for joining us, and let's jump in.
And I just wanted to throw in a few other tools before we probably transition, but and there are some people that this just does not work for, but having, an externalized to-do list, at least focusing, and I have multiple, and most people I work with prefer to have multiple, but having that like 1, 2, 3 things I must do today, maybe sometimes in whatever order I want to do them, but sometimes really it gives you the ability to look at them and consider, wait, do I have to drive to that place? Okay, do I have to be dressed a certain way because that would be expected? Do I want to be dressed in a certain way? And then what do I have those clothes? But when you have that priority and you've looked at it and you're like, okay, these are the things I must do, you're able to then do that next step of breaking them down into micro steps to help yourself accomplish them. And I say every day, but sometimes it's for the whole week. Sometimes it's, looking ahead at your calendar for the month.
That seems really closely connected to the next aspect, which is organization, the ability to create and manage systems to keep track of your things, concrete or electronic, your responsibilities, and your ideas. Yeah, I notice for myself, I consider myself more autism forward than ADHD, though they're both ever present in my brain. Systems are really important to me. And the system is actually what allows me to continue to do the things over and over again that need to be done. If something changes, if one detail changes to mess up the system, I am less likely to get those things done. Like it won't even be on my brain. It will be so hard for me to actually accomplish the task. But if the system is not messed with at all and allowed to progress fluidly, then I know and I can pretty much count on those things will get done. And so that's part of why systems are so important for me. Now, the people in my life, they don't necessarily always understand that. It feels like I'm being rigid, but actually, like, I know if that system messes up, then I'm not going to do the thing that they need me to do, and that will affect our relationship too. So
Yeah.
uh, it feels really complex.
Yeah. I'm gonna, I hope this is okay. I'm dying to know over here though. Do you allow people to help you build your systems? Because what happens sometimes I know is and it is, you're right, it's a form of organization. Let me highlight that, right? And also it takes organizational skills to build systems. When you're in a family system or even a church community, like what I've noticed is sometimes those systems impact other people and it causes some uh, turmoil, right? Where they're like, what are you doing? And it can feel like you're doing something to them versus doing something with them. And so I was kind of curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked, actually. My most common experience is that I build a system with other people, and then something clicks in my brain, and that's the system that we've all agreed to. And I can't imagine why anyone would do it any other way than that system. So, to use a phrase, come hell or high water, I am going to rigidly stick to the system. And then I find that some of the people who even helped build the system see all these reasons why, in this case, they maybe don't think the system is the best option. So they're going to do something outside the system. And then that's where the turmoil actually happens. For me, it's like, it feels like a betrayal of trust, actually, for me, because it's like,
Oh,
we agreed on this together, and
mm,
now you're not agreeing to it. And I don't
yeah.
understand when you get to say you agree to it and when you don't, and when those rules actually work. And so then it's like, who can I trust? Can I trust your word when we're planning the next system? I
Oh,
trust that you're actually gonna stick with that. And then that's where the relational stress really comes in for me.
yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I can feel that like over here. So it must be personal in some way because I'm like, oh, it's painful. And I think we could easily go to, oh, literal thinking at play, but you nailed it with context and ever changing context, right? And wait a minute, we made a plan and how that can feel. I don't think we talk about that enough, how that can feel to the neurodivergent person like betrayal, yet, because you're seeing details and literalness and we made a plan, yet life is dynamic and one-offs happen and contexts get thrown up. And the person who sees that much more clearly, the need for change, the need for another executive function of cognitive flexibility is like, but wait, we have to flex here. I'm not making you. I don't want to either, maybe. But situation, happen and we need to do it. Um, I think the antidote to that for anybody that's listening, and this is never easy and beautiful, by the way, it's always a process of change, but it's incorporating in that initial plan, whether it's your own or yours with a team, be it at church, at home, to incorporate flexibility into the plan. And I have a great example of, I worked with someone, they had to have really solid, you're doing a great job of describing the need for solid routines, and it helped him get out the door every morning. But his wife was really challenged with wanting help sometimes, and she would think, oh, it's a 5 minute thing. And so when we really got into it, I was like, well, I mean, if you need a routine, then what would it be like if you, like, would it be possible to incorporate, like, how long could you, extra time or margin of time that, you might be asked to do something that's unexpected. You might be able to, something unexpected just might happen. And your initial answer would be like, yes, because I can shift. I've got this extra built in time for the unexpected. And that helped. It helped a great deal. And then the other example that comes up for me is missionaries traveling and the need to shift quite a bit and doing the same thing. Like rather than just going, which most of the family was fine with doing, actually planning in the way that you talk about and then replanning every day. based on what was going to happen, so that at least they had some flexibility built in.
Yeah, and that thought of like replanning every day feels so overwhelming to my brain. But one of the things we're trying right now in my family is to have a plan A and then to have a contingency plan. So it's not like we have to come up with the new plan in the moment. It's like, oh, schedule B goes into effect when someone wakes up sick, or schedule B goes into effect when XYZ, the things shift in the environment. That my challenge, Robin, and this is very personal, so I'm just curious what you think about this, but my challenge is knowing when something is legitimate enough to constitute changing the system. And I also recognize, like, I value the system so much that it takes something much bigger in my mind to warrant changing the system, where others might think, well, something at a level 3 is surely worthy of changing the system. Does that make sense to you? Like, I think
Yes. Oh
that,
my gosh. And then we're like going into a whole nother part of our brain, like that decision making process, right? Because it's like pausing, which you're not always given the opportunity to do when change needs to happen. But if you can, pausing, which is necessary, by the way, for a lot of neurodivergent people, um, having that ability to process, oh my goodness, this is at a 3 or this is at a 2. Is it actually a time for change? And weighing out what are the pros, what are the cons, what are the outcomes. And by the way, one of the fears I think that I know that sneak up is, what is the rest of the plan that we have laid out going to happen? If we change this thing, then I can see the entire system's going to crash. And
100.
oh my goodness, the internal chaos that that can create. But you've got, top down thinkers and bottom up thinkers, and, usually all attracting to each other. And somebody sees, oh my goodness, this is a 3 or a 5. So I think I don't know if I'm helping or I'm making you feel more chaotic over there, but it's real, right? And so how do you pause and reorganize inside? Because I think we talked in this chapter, I highlight a lot of external organization, but I also mentioned, like, you'll see disorganization on your computer screen and, in your home, but internally, I think we're talking a lot about the internal disorganization that happens, and then using routines to reorganize. The best, and again, it's not beautiful in the moment. I do not work miracles when I'm working with people. Right? It's about really being practical and going into the moment and doing what you're doing now, like acknowledging kindly, because that's not always part of it when you're dysregulated. Okay, listen, I need to know what number this is, right? We've agreed what number is an important change. What number does everybody think this is? You might be outvoted and
Mhm.
have to go with it, even if it's against your logic. That's cognitive flexibility. And okay, if we make this change, I am afraid, I am worried, I won't get to do this. So I need to know not just what's happening now. I could go with the flow of this if I have the rest of that plan, implemented, or I know I have to let go of parts of that. And where are they going to go? Are those happening tomorrow? Or are they, you know, and it sounds silly to people who can just naturally go with the flow, who are internally organized and maybe not afraid that they're going to make mistakes in a majority culture. But for people who really need that routine to survive and feel organized, it isn't silly at all. And it's okay to say, this is the way my brain works. And we might miss something by pausing a little bit longer. Is everybody going to be alive and healthy in this moment? Then let's take the pause, because it will be worth it then for the rest of the day. Vacations come up for me just like as I'm talking. It's such a hotbed of that. Um, so even if you want to stretch that back to church, any trips that you're on, and especially as a leader of groups, right? How that could impact the entire group
Yeah,
in positive ways too, by the way. Like your
of course.
organization and sense of what we need to get done sometimes is just holding everybody together.
Sure.
frequently, probably.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've struggled with is because I feel like people actually are counting on me to hold everything together with my system, but then they're actively working against the system that they're counting on. And then it's just like, I need us to be honest about this. I need us to to look at it honestly and all the ramifications. I'm going to throw another layer into what you were just saying because it actually leads into the next thing too. And that is you talked about pause and assessing the situation. And immediately I could feel the stress level inside me rise because what comes up for me is this pause is not on the schedule. And so the pause is throwing off the rest of the schedule. And one of the ways I've managed around that is building more margin into my life.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
used to have hardly any margin. Um, but I still feel that like okay, I allotted my energy for the day. I planned everything very clearly about how I was going to show up for all of these things that are important to everybody else and myself. And this pause is actually throwing all of that off. And so even getting regulated enough to be in the pause to then make decisions, it plays into this time management uh, aspect. You know, the ability to manage time in the present and the future, predict
Yeah.
how long tasks will take. And actually, I think I'm hyper capable in this category, or at least hyper aware. Um,
Yeah.
Without a timepiece, watch, or anything on my phone, I'm able to predict probably usually within 30 seconds or a minute what time it is. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I'm aware that this pause is actually affecting this next thing and the next thing. And my brain is already going to, okay, I'm going to have to borrow it from this thing up here that I think I can cut a little bit of the corners to make this pause. Okay, I can be in this moment. Let's try to pause. So it's really complicated inside my brain.
Yeah, no, I can feel it. And it makes so much sense. Like, I'm like, well, of course, the pauses and then you can insert them. But the thing is about them is they come along when you least expect it, right? Like, you're not planning for it. So I think that's where, the routines are usually built, and it sounds like, and I'm speaking generally, not just for you. I don't want to speak for you actually, but I'm speaking generally. I like that you're speaking for you. But the pause, a lot of times it just comes out of necessity, right? Something's not going well, whether it's just for ourselves or others. And I think it's a learned skill to pause and say, okay, I need to regulate, usually some deep breathing or some moving, or what is it that I need right now to even be able to consider what's coming next. Now, I'm the opposite. Since you're being so transparent, I'll be so transparent back. I do not like routines. They are so hard. Like, the minute I build one, I'm ready to destroy it because I must have some PDA going on too. Like, I
Yeah.
just like, ugh. I can do it when my back, very classic ADHD, where my back is against the wall, the time I have to follow the routine, then it's my friend. But the rest of the time, I mean, road trips are my favorite. Let's stop at this cool place right here, which completely would derail you if we were trailing, travel. We're not supposed to stop for another 30 minutes. What are you talking about? That cool roadside stop you didn't know was there.
Mhm.
Um, right? So the pauses, though, again, for me, because I don't really love routines, sound great.
Yeah.
But it's really about figuring out for you inside in a realistic way what is going to help me have that, to know that it's possible, that it's coming. And what comes up for me was like, is there a mantra for you, or is there a scripture? I don't even know that. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to go look. Is there a scripture that talks about this, the need for a pause sometimes, or the need to redirect and reevaluate? Not to put you on the spot, did anything come up for you?
I'm doing my kind of inner concordance of scriptures. And, the first one that comes to my mind is this, be still and know that I am God. I think that
Psalm
there's something
46.
there,
Yes.
Psalm 46:10. Um, yeah, and I see God because most of my adult life I've spent in ministry cross-culturally and interculturally. And so where I just naturally am very time oriented. I'm actually both. I'm time oriented and I'm also event oriented, but I tend to skew towards time orientation. I see God as one who both does things at the right time, like we read that in scripture, at just the right time, Christ was born for the ungodly, right?
Mm.
Um, but then I also see that Jesus doesn't know the day or the hour that he will come back. And this flexibility of God, I also see that God works all things together for good. So throw whatever you want at God, and God will be able to be creative to make something good out of it. So my theology says whether you're hyper time focused or you're more flexible around time or more event oriented, both of those image God in different ways.
Well, that goes back to your very first podcast, which really made me confirm I needed to meet you, of us being created purposefully this way, and that God uses us. And if you think about what we talked about, how you're very you like your routines, and that is a strength, right? I think we talked about the challenges of it more, but it is a strength. You get people from point A to point B to point C to D. It's just that life is dynamic and flexible. And then I think in the same way, God uses those people to bring novel experiences and adventures into what could feel like a mundane plan, like we're accomplishing tasks, but is there relationship in this? And so it's so dynamic how each person and all of their characteristics are used, if we allow that in. And that's that cognitive flexibility part of not seeing each other as right or wrong, or I have all the strengths and you've got all the challenges, but that we each have both, which is really the realistic truth of the whole thing, is that we each have strengths and challenges that are unique of us. And even with being neurodivergent, I think we've done a good job of highlighting that, yeah, we can both be neurodivergent, but even in that basket, there's so much diversity. You could even have two, I think you call yourself, you've said you're more forwardly autistic. You could have two people that would say that and yet still be very different,
Yes.
right? And so it's really, for me, at the end of the day, about coming down to the strengths and challenges of what are each of the people in my life, and how do we build workarounds, how do we create organization we've like kind of talked about, or time management systems, so that we can do life together. And at least maybe 80% of the time we're doing it peacefully and successfully by our own definition, and pleasing to God. I love that you highlighted the plan A, plan B. I talk about that too, but I think you even talked about like this more flexible, like, I don't even know what we're going to do, but we need to pause and create right now because something has come along. And then another is just, is it possible, right? Would it be possible if we did this? And manifesting options. When we do that, our brain really actually relaxes, because it realizes there are possibilities. So it might be, okay, what are our possibilities, right? Is it possible to change the plan this way? Okay, wait, our options are keep the plan. So that helps the person who loves the routines. I don't know if that would work for you. Like, okay, at least my option is on the table still,
Yes, that's settling for sure. Yeah.
right? Now, let's see what other options there are as possibilities. We're just looking as possibilities. Now, what have we tried? What might work? What definitely won't work? And what are we going to actually experiment with right now, knowing that that might work or it might not work, and we might have to pause and regroup again. But yeah, options are a great tool to relax the brain, and even, and again, adding the options that might not even work, because it's telling us, oh, I'm making a choice versus something's being done to me, or I'm going to miss out on that thing. So I don't know if we touch time management quite enough.
No, maybe not, but we also kind of started there, even with task initiation. There's so much overlap, right? With I show up at church late because of X, Y, Z, and all of these different elements are interconnected. I'm just noticing in myself, and this is really helpful actually, noticing in myself one of the major reasons why I'm hesitant to pause and recreate a plan is because the plan was created when I was calm, think through the details and think through the ramifications. And then just pausing stresses me out, and I can work on that in some different ways. But also it's like the plan now, we're creating it on the fly, and it may not be as well-rounded of a plan as the one we came up with in the first place. I think part of it is giving freedom for it to not be as smooth, or not to be as well-rounded, or not to be as perfect as the original plan, right? And trusting that even if I don't have the executive function to make some of those decisions on the fly, maybe that's where I really struggle. Others might have that executive function that I could lean on, and that could be a really good thing for building relationship. I think I'd like to just kind of wrap up with this crazy thought that's in my mind as you're talking about how we're each imaging God in different ways. And I'm just thinking about Moses, for whatever reason, walking through the desert. And certainly it wasn't on his plan for the day to catch this thing out of the corner of his eye that appears to be this bush that is on fire. And yet his curiosity, his interest draws him to move closer and see what is this, right? And that curiosity then becomes a doorway for an encounter with God and a calling, a revelation of God as I am, which is so beautiful. Like I am in the present tense in this moment, and um, the God who is here and is now. And then for whatever reason, I can just also imagine Moses going home to his wife at the end of the day, and he's 45 minutes late, you know? And that could be really distressing for her. And how do we both hold both? Like, oh, I get this is distressing for you, and I just had this encounter with God that wouldn't have happened if I had just stuck to the schedule, you know? Uh,
Mm.
and I want more of that in my community life, um, in my faith communities, in my family relationships, friendships, um, where one aspect doesn't have to threaten the other, but we can make room for the way our brains work. As you have said several times, the way my brain works is.
I love that you just brought that up, because I was initially thinking, like, yeah, Josh, there's a good enough plan, right? There's a good enough plan. Maybe that would help to get through those moments where you're like, oh no, I thought. I totally related to that, by the way. That one gets me too. I need time and calm to process. And so I might like plans more than I really realize that I do. Looser plans, I think they're not, I'm good at pivoting if I need to sometimes. But there are definitely times where I get very anxious and dysregulated because I don't have the time to plan this out. And I know that when I did, there were a lot of reasons and details that I incorporated. And yet sometimes a good enough plan, right? A good enough plan B. And by the way, when I have time later, maybe, back at home or in a safe space, whatever, I will reevaluate. Did I get those things that were most important? Often we do. It's surprising, but often we do. But then when you shifted to the story of Moses, I was like, oh, God interrupts. And what if his plan was better for you for that day? And I'm gonna hold on to that because I think I could what if this unexpected was actually God interrupting me to talk to me, to be with me, to show me something, to even show us something. And who am I? Who am I to hold us to this routine? And I'm scared. Maybe you're scared too, but it looks like this is the plan that we need to take on. And then you went on to this next place of like, how does our partner respond to us? And I think that, man, that's so hard because life is so demanding, right? The ideal answer is that your partner knows you and there's vulnerability and there's trust, and they're like, oh, the way my partner's brain is, they take a little extra time. Maybe you've even planned for it, right? You leave work at this time, but you've got 20 minutes built in or something in case, or giving the benefit of the doubt, right? Oh man, I wish they were here. But I know sometimes they get sidetracked. Maybe they like to help people and sometimes, or talk too much. I'm guilty. Um, I really enjoy a spontaneous conversation with a stranger sometimes, and that will make me late. But the truth is that in life, I'm just thinking of making dinner, so that's transparent. But, you're cooking dinner and you're on a schedule and you want people there while it's hot.
Mhm.
And so or if there are children at play that need to go to bed at a certain time, these are all realistic things. And so it's not as beautiful as the ideal. But I think the basic is, can I stay calm? Can I stay regulated when my partner comes in? Could I greet them with curiosity first and compassion? And can I later, when we're all regulated, ask for change in a way I need, or help my partner build a plan that will, at least get them back closer to time, or at least have us on the same page. I think maybe I start dinner later and you, take a little more time, or maybe I text you or call you, or you set some reminders in your phone that you're actually going to work at, acknowledging. So it's a lot. I will hold on to your story of Moses and the burning bush for a long time. I thank you for that.
It feels like a story that's really affirming to the ADHD brain, if I'm honest. It
Yeah.
is like, oh yeah, there can be some beautiful things that happen when I actually follow what catches my attention, and it may lead to an encounter with God, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we've got several more that we can talk about at another time, several more of these aspects of executive function, but before we close today, is there anything else you'd like to say, either to me or to our audience?
No, just thank you. Thank you for your time and listening. Thanks for having me on. This is really enjoyable. And I'm very sure these conversations help me grow closer to God just in the process of talking about what I know so well and connecting it to my relationship with Christ. So I hope it does that for you, and I hope it does that for your audience.
It absolutely has done that for me today, and I trust that if we both experienced that, then people who are listening will also experience that. So thanks, Robin.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Neurodivergent Faith. If you like what you heard, consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing this with someone who might need to hear it too. And as you continue to wrestle with faith and identity, remember, your unique brain is a part of God's creative genius. Whether it's the way you process scripture, engage with prayer, or connect with others, you are a reflection of the vast creativity of our Creator. May you trust that God knows you, delights in you, and is working in you exactly as you are. And may you know that you are not walking this journey alone. See you next time.